Yeah,
You can run with us.
It's like
Right.
when quit smoking. You tell everybody about
You
it.
tell everyone you're quitting smoking and you have to.
Better not catch one.
yeah, we're smoking over here.
No, I'm just saying.
All right, so there's a handout there, Amos. Would you mind sharing that with everybody?
Yeah.
Come on. Can you pass it out, Skip?
Yeah, you can help someone.
Because you're an excellent passer.
We're going to read this together.
Yes.
It's Jesus' death row prayer. So if you've been missing it, Jesus was on death row. He got executed by the Romans in a very awful way. And so right before he gets killed, he says this prayer. So I didn't name that. I'm sure other people have, but this is his death row prayer. This is something that he said right before the end was here. It must be important. Whatever you say at the end, like right before you leave to go on some death-defying trip, or whatever letter you write at the end, or your last will and testament, you must mean that. So this is what Jesus said.
Okay.
So you've got it in real big print. I printed it out in nice and large.
I
Can't
like
miss
it.
it. You good, Jessica?
Yes.
All right, so let's read it together. I'll read it. If y'all want to read out loud, you can. I've always been unclear about that, but you don't certainly have don't have to.
Let's read this loud.
I have given them the glory that you gave me, so that they may be one as we are one. I and them and you and me. May they experience such perfect unity that the world will know that you sent me and that you love them as much as you love me. Father, I want these whom you have given me to be with me where I am. Then they can see all the glory you gave me because you loved me even before the world began. O righteous Father, the world doesn't know you, but I do, and these disciples know you sent me. I have revealed them to you and will continue to do so. Then your love for me will be in them, and I will be in them. So, Lord Jesus, we're grateful that these words are recorded so we can experience you today through them. So I pray that you would speak clearly through your word today, that we would be different when we leave. So it's his last words. It must be important. There's something unbelievable here. We've been looking at him for 3 weeks now. This is the 4th week. And I told y'all my story last week about how God has changed me 3 different stages through this actual same passage of Scripture has just kind of morphed me a little bit each time. And he started with, he's praying for you and me. Right? We forgot that part. He prayed for himself. He prayed for the 12 disciples. And he prayed for you and me, everyone who believed in me through their message. And he prayed that we would be one, like him and the Father are one. And so that kind of freaked me out that Jesus prayed for us. And if this was somebody else's words, we could just kind of yawn and go on. But it's Jesus' words, so there must be something meaningful, life-altering that he's got going on here. He says, I've given them, you and me. Jesus is praying to the Father, and he's saying that I gave them, that's you and me, if you've trusted Christ, the glory that you gave me. And then if we've gotten the right habit, we're in the same habit, even whenever it says so or so that, I draw a circle with an arrow to what's next to it. So that, or so they may be one as we are one. I and them, and you and me. So again, if this was somebody else's words, then we could just yawn and move on. But this is Jesus, man. This cat was murdered, put in the dirt, professional execution squad, put him to death. They sealed him up in a grave. Then 3 days later, he's out walking around, seen by all these people. So that's some pretty hefty street cred. You know, I think he should be taken seriously when he's talking about this. I'm paying attention. I have given them the glory that you gave me. Now, I don't always feel all that glorious. How about you? What is glory? Well, here's what I love the internet. It's kind of fun. Here is dictionary.com's definition. It's pretty good. Very great praise, honor, or distinction bestowed by common consent. Renown. So that's in Isaiah 26:8 from a Passion Peach. You know, your name and your renown, which is worldwide fame. Something that is the source of honor, fame, or admiration. Adoring, praise, or worshipful. Resplendent beauty. That reminds me of you, sweetheart. Resplendent beauty. That's just awesome. A state of great splendor. A state of absolute happiness, gratification, contentment, glory. And I remembered when I see that word, I just think of the Matthew Broderick movie, Glory, in the 80s, about the Black Regiment in the Civil War. They fought for the North, and how their lives just reflected the glory of their valuable cause. And it was such sacrifice. If you see a good sentimental movie, I'll cry. We went to, we do this workshop once a month. We just finished, which is kind of sad, called CoLab. It's a guy named Will Mancini, and it's a vision, how to articulate the vision of your church well. And so we just finished that, and then our exercise for listening to a talk that articulated vision at the highest level was Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. It's, how many minutes long? 16 minutes long or something. And we had these cool categories of listening, and it was glorious because he talked about a burning platform in a preferred future. I love that. So Jesus is saying that I have given them. Them is who?
Us.
Right, anybody who trusts Christ. I have given them the glory that you, God, gave me. Why? So that they may be one as we are one. I and them and you and me. And wow, God's glory, that's like his radiance. So if you were to say, gee whiz, I want to go up close to the sun, what would happen? We're 93 million miles away from the surface of the sun, thereabouts. It kind of oscillates because our orbit's not exactly symmetrical. So if you were just say, let's just transport ourselves and be only 1 million miles from the surface of the sun, what would happen next?
We'd be crispy.
Right, it's very hot. You can't just tell the sun, let's turn the dial down a little bit. It's glorious. It's radiating. It's heat and fire and radiation too, because if you're out in the outside the protective elements of the atmosphere, the radiation from the sun would, the elements, I don't know how all that science stuff works, would hit you and it would be bad. And it's his radiating splendor. So that happened in the Bible, right? What was the dude who hid in the cleft of the rock and God passed by him? He put his hand over the rock and God passed by his backside. So who was that? Moses. He said, I want to see your glory, God. I want you to transport me right up next to the sun. And God said, negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full. All my 80s peeps represent. Come on. See, we need to watch the movies because all my movie lines are old. So he said, you don't want that because you'll be blown up. So God says, I'm going to hide you in a rock. I'm going to put my hand over the rock. I'm going to pass by. And then when I'm a good ways off, I'm going to move my hand back and you can see my backside from a long way off. And Moses saw it and he freaked him out. In fact, he went down the mountain and his face was on fire. It was radiating because he had absorbed some God radiation. And now the glory of God was reflecting back off Moses. It was freaking people out. And Isaiah saw the Lord, right? Isaiah 6:1. And what happened then when he saw the Lord? He says, I went into the temple. I saw the Lord. It was the year that King Uzziah died. It was like the year that John Kennedy died, or it was the day. It was 9/11. It was the year of 9/11. And I saw the Lord. He was lofty and exalted, and the train of his robe filled the temple, and the place was filled with smoke. And what did Isaiah say he did? He went, ah! He hit the dirt. Oh no! I've seen the Lord. And he said, I wish I was dead. Because I saw the Lord. Surely I'm going to burn in crispiness right here. He freaked out. He hit the deck. He said, woe is me. And that was what he did. He let me get under the concrete, please, because this is bad. I saw the Lord. It's going to be. And God had to meet Isaiah, and he went and got a coal from the fire, and in representation of what Jesus was going to do by paying for the price of sin, he put the coal and touched Isaiah's lips. And he says, your sin is forgiven. He's foreshadowing what would happen on the cross. At the transfiguration, right, Jesus takes his 3 peeps, his 3 best homies with him, and they go up on this mountain, and they go worship. He takes Peter, James, and John, and they go up on this mountain. Now, Jesus knows what's about to happen. They don't know. And up there, it says Jesus is transfigured. We don't know what that looks like. Maybe he took on more of his heavenly persona. It says he was glowing white. And the disciples kind of freaked out. Peter, he's a loudmouth kind of guy. So he said, let's build a shelter. So we don't know how they figured it out, but apparently Peter figured out that it was Moses and Elijah who appeared with Jesus. So they go up on this mountain. They're off by themselves to pray and worship. Oh, Jesus turns to glowing white. Moses and Elijah show up. Now, they didn't have pictures, so I don't know how they knew it was Moses and Elijah, but somehow they did. And they're glowing white, and Peter, James, and John are going like, I don't understand. This is crazy. So let's build shelters and let's hang out. It's good that we're here, Lord. Let's build shelters. He's just babbling on. And so we can have mercy on us when we're babbling on because we meet Jesus and we freak out. So when glory happens, right, those are 3 glory examples in the Bible, stuff changes. Every time those guys would change. Moses, he wanted to see that glory. It happened again. Isaiah knew that year. It was the year of 9/11. I saw the Lord. I freaked out. I hit the dirt. God healed me. The Transfiguration, they got to see a little glimpse of what heaven's going to look like. And when Jesus shows up, something happens. And Paul writes about this in the book of Galatians. He says, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision matters. Meaning, I subscribe to the group that adheres to the law. I don't subscribe to the group that adheres to the law. He goes, what matters is a new nature. Like, I meet Jesus, something transacts on the inside of me, and I am different on the other side of that. Now, that can be a gradual process. It can be a one-time event. Now, there is a point of faith. Sometimes we recognize it, sometimes we don't. But there's something crazy. And Jesus said it like this. He goes, verse 23, I in them, and you, God, in me. And we can just blow past that like words on a page. So the Apostle Paul knew we would blow past it like words on a page, and he wrote about it in his book of Colossians. So if you flip the page over, I wrote down the 2 Colossians verses. One of them I like so much, I did buy the domain name, Colossians 1:27. He wrote that to them God has chosen to make known among the Gentiles. So who are Gentiles?
Us.
That's everyone who's not a Jewish by birth, by blood. That's just us. The glorious riches of this mystery. So I think we get a clue right there that mysteriousness is commonplace with God. If we think we got God and figured out, we just don't know Him very well. Which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And I love glory. Like, I like the small-time glory of playing football in the yard and pretending I'm catching the winning touchdown pass with my toes in the end zone and win the Super Bowl, right? Y'all done that? Or, you know, it's bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, Reggie Jackson, y'all just gave yourselves, comes up to play and you're throwing the winning pitch or whatever it is that your thing is. And everybody's got some hope of glory. You got one. I got one. Sometimes our hope of glory is kind of ordinary, that we want to try hard. Sometimes our hope of glory is that we're the biggest doubter in the world, and we doubt everybody and everything. Our hope of our distinctness. Maybe it's getting our way or being in control. Or wanting everyone just to get along. Everyone would just get along, just make peace. Then I'd have hope, and it would settle down. When things settle down, April, are things going to settle down? She don't say. When we make it to the weekend, you know, I feel I'm pretty talkative, so I go to Walmart and ask them, how you doing, the checker? I just can't wait for the weekend. Now, I know the feeling, like, yay, get to hang out. But if really that's my hope, is I can make it to the weekend, I'm kind of grieved, you know, like, oh man, God's got so much more for you. He's got a hope of glory for you. Wealth, having enough, and, you know, none of these were off, right? Because who won the Super Bowl 9 years ago? Wrong. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was between the 2 Patriots. It was a good educated guess. And 9 years before that, who won it? Cowboys. Go Packers.
Go Packers.
Go Packers. Oh, and 9 years before that, who won it?
Packers.
Oh.
49.
Yes.
Whoa!
Luke Runyon wins the prize. That's a good guess. Right? I mean, you know how much money they spend to win a Super Bowl? They spent $1.2 billion of taxpayer money to build Jerryville. $1.2 billion. That's a big TV. I'm sure it would be fun to be there. Unless you were one of those 300 people who didn't get seated at the Super Bowl. But that's a big place. How much payroll it is to get this glory. And this glory fades, right? Glory fades. So you're getting the point. So Paul gives us some more instructions. It's like, okay, so there's hope of glory. It's in Jesus. There's something transforming. So now, what do I do about that? So that Colossians 3 verse. This is awesome. So y'all look at it and I'll read it. Since then, you have been raised with Christ. And that's a big if. Maybe that hasn't happened for you. If you haven't been raised with Christ, well then, this is what's available for you. This is what could happen, be your next step. That's awesome. God's ready for that. But if you have been raised with Christ, if you put your trust in Him and made alive on the inside by the power of God, where He took your death and put it to death on the cross, and He took Jesus' life that He got when He busted out of the tomb, and He put that inside of you, well then set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above. So there's emotional decision, there's a mental one, not on earthly things. Doesn't mean that you don't think about how to drive, because I hope you do. Because if Jamar runs over me on the way home, that'd be kind of inconvenient for him. We'd have to call the cops and get my car towed or go to the hospital. Now, why should I do that? Why should I set my heart and mind on things above? Well, He's telling us, right? For you died. And that's hard, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't want to die. I want to keep on the me inside of me, being in charge. I want that. For you died, and your life now, because dying can be better, right? We watched Star Wars this week, and Obi-Wan said, which is you can take Star Wars as a metaphor for Christ. You can, kind of. That Obi-Wan said, when I die, I'll become even more powerful than you can imagine. Yeah, watch it again. You kind of can. You very much can if you look for that, if you want to view it that way. Obi-Wan said, when I die, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly. When I die, your life is now hidden with Christ in God. Why is that important? Well, Paul's telling us, for when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with Him in glory. Wow. Because my identity is hidden with Christ in God. So back to Jesus' prayer, verse 23. So on your page, you can look at verse 23. So Jesus is saying, may they, and the they is us, experience perfect unity, so that the world will know that you sent me and that you love them as much as you love me. That's pretty cool. So the glory of the Lord God is going to be shown to the world when they see us together. You know, and I think that's pretty cool. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do all that together. The heartbeat that God's, I think, given me is for the church to look more like the city. Black, white, north, south, rich, poor, different cultures, different, we're not all the same. Gosport to Graywood, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. I just know I'm following Jesus. So Jesus continues, verse 24. Father, I want those whom you have given me to be with me where I am. Then they can see all the glory you gave me because you loved me even before the world began. Jesus wants you and me to be with Him in glory. That's crazy to me. Like, how do I know that? Who are all the famous people who've been calling me up saying they wanted to hang out with me? How about you? I mean, we sang Firework last night, but Katy Perry hasn't dialed us up yet to ask if she could come over and dance with us. I mean, I would be better than she would be. We all would. Huh?
Her husband's hilarious.
Yeah, he can't do British right now. But yeah. I haven't had that, man. I mean, Bono hasn't come over and wanted to play. You know how I love that song One with Mary J. Blige and Bono? They haven't called me up and said, hey, man, we'd like to come sing that with you guys at Stella Bean. I haven't had any famous people call me like that. I mean, Dale Jr. hasn't asked me if I wanted to go, race cars with him. I don't know. I don't have that. But Jesus wants you and me to be with Him in glory. And so, who's gotten a cool present lately? Anybody here? Sam, what'd you get?
Got new shoes.
You got new shoes? What? Like, yeah. Anybody else had a new present lately? What's one of the, yeah, what'd you get? Got shoes?
Yeah.
Now, what's the fun part about presents? What's one of the fun parts about presents?
You don't
What's that? Opening them? What? Do you open them alone?
No.
Why? It's more fun with people. Why do you think Jesus wants you to see His glory? Because it's more fun with people. He wants you, Chuck Runyon and Paul Pettifer, and Amos and Derek to see Him in all His glory. He gets to show all His presence, and He wants everybody to see it. Like, you know what? What if, everybody here got to see April open her bonus present for Valentine's Day? those yellow sandals, yellow box sandals, baby. Look how cute they are. It's got a cross on it, so it's legit for church. You know what I'm saying? This is a surprise bonus present. Right here. Right here. This is so cool because now every time you see that, you're like, yeah, Paul gave it to me. By the way, this is the power of writing stuff down. I wrote it down in my book, and then I actually got to the accessories. I'm like, oh yeah, you can write it. I want everyone to know how much I love you and how resplendent is your glory with your yellow box shoes. That's the way he's saying about this. And I think it's just so easy for me to miss that. You know? Oh, that's glory.
So we get to put in Jesus' toys?
We are Jesus' toys.
Oh.
Yeah.
We all
We're-
got presents. We got to see them.
Yeah. Jesus made a public spectacle. God made a public spectacle out of Jesus when he sent him to the earth. Then he sent him to the cross. And he punished him, or he allowed him to be punished and put to death for every awful, yucky, terrible, evil, sinful thing that we've done. All the junk in our lives. The slimy things that we would be so ashamed to have everyone know. He made a public spectacle of it. All the junk. That's so that people could see how glorious God's grace is. He was willing to endure all that shame because he loved Sam and Luke and Hannah. O righteous Father, he says, the world doesn't know you, but I do, and these disciples know you sent me. So something happens when the glory of God touches on a person that we know that God sent Jesus. And we know this because this relationship with him yields this new identity. Relationship, God and Jesus are connected. Now I'm Jesus and connected. I get this new identity, I get this new relationship. I reveal them to you, verse 26, and will continue to do so. Then your love for me will be in them, and I will be in them. I will be in them. Wow. Jesus has made the Father known to us, and he will continue to do that. So the love the Father has for Jesus may be in us, and Jesus himself may be in us. And what does that mean? You know, one of the things I think it means is that the impossible stuff of God, impossible stuff in your life, becomes possible. I think that's what it means. One of the things it means. The impossible stuff for you, whatever your impossible is right now. And this chapter is all about identity and relationships. He keeps talking about that. He only asks for 5 things, and then uses the rest of the prayer just to elaborate on his relationship with God, his relationship with us, what can happen with us when we have the relationship with God that he has with us, that he's made available, and he becomes in us. And it starts inside of you. That might be the place that this starts. Where this Christ in you gets applied today. It could have been that you've been 20 years doing the same stupid thing. I'm sorry, dumb. I can't say stupid from children. Sorry. You might just be telling yourself, I'm just, and you can fill in the blank. I'll never stop, fill in the blank. Our family always, fill in the blank. I just can't help but, fill in the blank. And when we meet Jesus, just like when Moses and Isaiah and the disciples were around when God's glory showed up, stuff changes. We get transformed. And then, wow. So what would be, here, I'm done now. What would be the best possible use for all of the dumb, stupid, ridiculous, horrible, sinful things that you've ever done?
Use it as a testimony. Like, say, if I went through all this and Jesus could transform me through all this yucky crud, imagine what he can do for you too. Don't think that you're hopeless. Because you're not.
How would you sum that up? Maybe words like
Lord, he wants to transform all the terrible things that we've done, or all the silliness of life, or the wastefulness that we've done, all our years of repeating our silliness, and turn it into a chance for Him to be glorified. And is Jesus in you? That's a great place to start. That's a good question for you. If the answer is no, then that's where you start. If the answer is yes, and you put your faith and trust in Christ, then Jesus wants to keep busting loose ends. You know, God's the only thing that every time we peel the onion, He gets bigger, He gets more glorious. And I don't know how it works for you, but for me, it's when I'm that next thing, that next step, that next risk, that next relational engagement, I get scared. I don't know. And I just go back to the things I'm used to. And I'm scared to change. I mean, I like the change that's my idea. Right? All of us like a little bit of change as long as it's our idea. But that's part of letting God lead us, is that I'm ready for that next step of Christ in me, the hope of glory coming out. And Jesus, you know, His prayer for us in this John 17 was that we be united, and we be united on mission together. He said to the disciples, as the Father sent me, I send you. In John, in verse 19, right before the unity one. And God wants us to be on mission together. So that's our mission together as the City Church, to do that together. So one step for that is to learn and train each other on how to be everyday missionaries. Starting right where we are. You don't have to I'm going to go and talk to everybody I meet at the grocery store. No, we don't have to do that. We can do that together. So that's our... Yeah, well, guys group's doing that. That's awesome. Yeah. So do community group on mission together. So that's what we're starting next week. So group 2.0 for Wednesday nights. And everyone who's not in Wednesday night group, we'll do that together. We're going to learn together. This isn't a thing that says, you got to become a radical tomorrow. No, this is a learning process where we train one another. I'm grateful to God that He was so willing to let His glory be shown to Jesus. And I'm grateful that He doesn't give up on us. And the last song we're going to sing tells that very same story, right? I think it's so cool that me and Jamal were outside talking, and I was quoting that song before this, when clouds veil sun and disaster